Yes, my people, how are we all doing? Welcome back to the wonderful platform that is YouTube. Today we've got, firstly, oh, that's some good flavour, that. Non-stim pre-workout going in, mega pump at the moment. Decent when it comes to non-stims. Everyone says like, oh yeah, this one's good, like, they've all got very similar ingredients in. Some are going to be better than others, of course. But you don't really like feel the benefits as such, I would say, from my perspective anyway. I've had some in the past that have caused me to like tingle a little bit, but yeah, this seems like a pretty good one. Tastes all right as well. So scoop of this going in. Put on the cards today, so I'm going to run you through the workout. First up, seated calf raise. So I do calves at the start of my pull session and at the start of my upper session, which is in 2 days' time. So 3 sets on that. Nautilus pull down, single arm, T-bar row, Nautilus single arm horizontal row, assisted pull up, rear delt cable fly, and then we've got some arm work in at the end as well. So as it says in the title, this is the back workout that has helped me continue to grow my back throughout prep. Now you'll notice that it's very lat dominant, and that's just because we want to build more width throughout the back, and obviously the lats provide that width. Now when I step on stage, we'll be able to see which areas of my back are kind of going to be the priority for when we go into the next off season. And if it's the case of my upper back needs work, then of course we'll kind of shift the focus to include more upper back dominant working. But yeah, like I said, non-stim pre-workout going in, so I'll get this down me. And now what I'll also do is, in this bowl here, it's probably about 1 litre, because it's a 1.5 litre bowl, not all the way full. I've got 20 grams of, well, 1 scoop of maltodextrin, which is 20 grams of carbohydrates. And that stayed consistent throughout prep and off season. And then I have 1 scoop of essential amino acids as well. So we know that carbs are obviously going to be the body's main source of energy. So if I can have some carbohydrates throughout the workout, that's just going to help me have sustained energy throughout the workout as well. And then along with essential amino acids, I'm almost giving my body the nutrients it needs to start that muscle rebuilding recovery process throughout the workout. And you know, the space that I have between my pre and post workout meal, sometimes it's like 4 to 5 hours, which is a long time. So if I can have a top up of protein during that window, then giving the body the nutrients it needs, you know. So yeah, I don't think I've walked through this session on the channel. I either have or haven't done it in a very long time. So we'll talk through the session, give you some points, do a little physique update at the end as well, because I've hit a new low throughout prep. This morning I was 83 point something. I'll put it up on the screen here anyway so you can see my weight. I've got some new posing trunks as well, so give those a bit of a trial run because I fucking lost my other one somehow. Got the golden boy ones, so give those a little test run. If you've got any questions, as always, drop them in the comments, or you can always just message me privately on Instagram. My DMs are always open, always happy to help, so stay tuned. Catch you in a bit. Let's get the boring shit out of the way first then. Seated calf raise. Realistically, who likes really training class that much? So we're getting done at the start when we're fresh. Definitely not going to impact the session to follow. My calves are pretty decent from doing that over the years. You know, since I started working with my first coach, really, they've always programmed calves at the start of sessions, and that's why they've managed to grow a fair bit. And I tend to do just 3 sets twice a week, and they respond really well. So main focus for this is spending a good amount of time in that stretch position, not being overly concerned with getting the muscle as contracted as I can. There's been some recent studies come out recently, that have shown that the calves get a main benefit from that deep stretch position. It's one of the muscles that respond the best to that. So, you know, you almost don't need to worry too much about coming up all the way. More, make sure you load that stretch position, spend some time there, and go through a decent range of motion. But like I said, don't be overly concerned. Coming right up onto your big tiptoe. Yes, you get a better contraction, you might get a better sensation, but that doesn't always equate to more muscle growth. So last week, 76.25 for 11. So the goal is to match or go up. And that, my friends, is a rep up. And at 5 weeks out, I'll take that. Especially during prep, if I'm taking any kind of progression, I'll aim to do 1 week where I add a small amount of load. The next week, I'll aim to solidify that, you know. The goal would be just to maintain that number, just so I know for a fact I can do that with good form. And then maybe the week after I'll go up again and literally just add like 1.25 kilos, aim to match reps, you know. And it's just those small micro progressions over time that have allowed me to continue to grow throughout prep. But the main point to take away is my form has not changed. My tempo is the same, the setup of the machine is the same, execution is the same, and ultimately it comes down to, are you stimulating the muscle or are you just chasing numbers in the logbook? Because that's defeating the object of using one of these, like I bang on about all the time. Okay, on to the back work now. First up, single arm lat pull down on the Nautilus, which is a fantastic bit of kit. I feel like I say that every time I'm in this gym, but that's the coach for you. So the goal with this is, when you're doing a lat pull down movement, you almost want to imagine that from your elbow to your wrist, it doesn't exist. You want to use your elbow and shoulder and drive down towards the pocket. And a really good cue with this is, think about keeping your forearm in line with the machine arm. So you can see the machine arm will travel in this direction, and I want my forearm to stay in line with that. So I don't want to bend my arm up here or have it down here. And again, drag the elbow down towards the pocket. Think of that motion. Drag the elbow, and then when you get to here, do the opposite. So you almost want to come down and away, sort of in an arcing motion like this. So by doing that motion, like away and up, that will help you stretch the lat more rather than just coming up, okay? So I'm going to show you a final warm up here, just to demonstrate what I mean there. Also, crunching down to that working side, you can see that I've just flexed my spine downward like this. So from here, down and away, forearm in line with the machine arm. I get to the top position here and I let my shoulder elevate slightly to there. That's the lat now fully stretched. Pause, and then first thing I think about from here is elbow down. That's as low as you need to come. You don't need to come all the way back to here. Come to there where the point where your elbow is in line with your spine. Slowly lower it up, and then again we're dragging the elbow down. Drag like that. Alright, next movement up, we've got the T-bar. So now we're moving on to more of the upper back dominant work. So you'll see with the T-bar I'm using the Gym 80, firstly, heavy as fuck. But my elbow path is now coming out at this sort of angle, which is going to be targeting traps, rhomboids, rear delts. And that's what I would class as the upper back. So you can kind of separate the back into like three main areas: upper back, lats, lower back, or spinal erectors that get trained through hip hinging movements. So when it comes to targeting the back, you want to kind of like pick movement patterns that bias these certain areas. You don't need to worry so much about hitting the teres or hitting the rhomboids, because, you know, by targeting the entire upper back, you're going to cover all your bases. So yeah, that's the goal with this movement. And also just focusing on a lot of scapular movement. So allowing my shoulder blades to roll forwards, but not letting my spine collapse forwards, okay? See a lot of people doing an upper back row, and as they come down, they let their spine round. You know, the spine rounding isn't stretching the upper back anymore. So keep your back nice and flat, chest on the pads. Allow your shoulder blades and shoulders to move forward, to stretch, and then do the reverse on the way back. Drive the shoulders back, elbows back, and think about pinching those shoulder blades together at the top. Right, as you would have seen, Nautilus single arm horizontal row now. So we've obviously done the first lat movement, which is a bit more of a vertical challenge, which is targeting more of the lower lat fibers. Now we're moving on to more of a horizontal plane, which is targeting more of the mid to upper lat fibers. It doesn't really fucking matter too much. You're going to train your entire back, your entire lats anyway when you're doing a lat focus movement. So don't get so caught up in the weeds on upper, lower, mid, back focus. But that's kind of the rationale as to why I want to do a more overhead pull down variation and then a more horizontal pull down variation. So similar things apply to what I said on the single arm pull down. Crunch to the working side, forearm in line with the machine arm, dragging that elbow along the floor this time, because obviously it's a horizontal row. So dragging the elbow along the floor and getting a really good stretch. And honestly, one of the best cues you can take away here is during that eccentric, think about coming down and away. So instead of just releasing it like that, think down and away. And that really helps put tension on the lat. And you feel a much better stretch doing it like that. When it comes to back movements, I always pause it in the stretch position. That's where the back benefits the most from a muscle building standpoint. And it really kind of limits any kind of momentum out of the movement. I'm not using that stretch reflex. Pause, engage the muscle, and row. So shock horror, we've got another lat movement, but this one, definitely one of the staples that I've had in for a long period of time that's brought up my lats. I would say just back in general, to be fair. It's not really one that's going to really isolate the lats. I would say you're going to get some upper back, rear delt involvement out of it as well. So it's fantastic. And I think this, or like a lat pull down that recreates this movement pattern, should be a staple in everyone's program when you want good back development. So the goal with this is, I'm not keeping myself bolt upright like this. As I pull up, I'm almost lifting my chest up towards the bar slightly. So you can see that my elbows end slightly in front of my torso. And then as I come down, getting a big stretch, pausing in that stretch position as well. Like I said earlier, limiting any kind of momentum out of the movement. So last week, 12.5 for 8. 9 is the goal. Sorry, 8 reps matched. I'll take that. This is a movement that's super fucking hard to progress. Really fucking hard. And because it goes up in 5 kilo increments, makes it that bit harder. But something you can do is use a gym pin. If your gym or a machine at your gym goes up in increments that are too large and you're struggling to progress it, for smaller muscles like side delts, you can attach a gym pin and literally put like half a kilo extra on there, a kilo, 1.25, whatever it is, and just try and max reps and just slowly build it up over time rather than taking really big jumps and then dropping reps, as a result. All right, on to the fancy pantsy work, isolations. Don't know why I said fancy pantsy, but we're going with it. You definitely shouldn't treat this like fancy pantsy work though if you want to build up those muscles that are being targeted through the isolation work. Rear delts being one of them. So for me, a rear delt cable fly, it just feels so much better than a reverse pec deck. You can align it better. With this, we're lucky enough to have the Bravo here, so you can use this central pad. You can attach the cuff to it as well, so I get a really nice connection with my rear delts on this movement. Now, a fantastic cue for this is, instead of thinking about coming back, thinking about reaching out, so almost shoulders forward, and reaching out and away from you. okay? It's similar to what you do on a side raise machine for the side delt. So yeah, again, like drag out rather than just coming back, because that's where upper back muscles kind of take over. Remember, the rear delt is a muscle that sits on the side of the shoulder here, so that's going to contract best when you're reaching in that outward angle, okay? So I'm actually going to try and go up in weight this week, because last week I did 15 for 14, I think it is, so we're going to try 20. Now you'll see with that set there, I stopped at the point where I feel like the only way to move that more was if I was to allow my form to kind of crumble. You can see it was starting to get a bit sticky. You know, in the off season, maybe I would have taken one more there, taken a couple of partials or whatever. But at this stage in prep, leaving a rep in the tank is absolutely fine, you know. I'm not gonna get much benefit from it at this stage, 5 weeks out. Likely not gonna be building any muscle. So the goal is now muscle retention, keep fatigue nice and low, and just provide an adequate stimulus to that muscle to keep it around. One more set on here, and on to the arm work. So staying on the cable for the next one, we've got the cuffed crossbody tricep extension. So I'll set the cables up. So basically my arm path is this with this one, yeah? Now, with majority of arm movements you do, if you go through the arm path first, and then just allow that cable to run through your upper arm, and just set the cable up at that position, you know? So if I'm coming here, my upper arm's running there, so I want the cable running through my upper arm. So I want the cable somewhere up here in both corners. Cuff on the outside of the wrist, and I'm extending down like that. And I want my elbow back behind my torso like this. Again, I'm using the central pad to lean into, more stability, more force output. I can really just focus on flexing and extending the elbow. That's a rep down. You win some, you lose some. Not gonna throw my toy out of the pram. Not gonna lose muscle. It's all good. And considering I've progressed the majority of the workout all maintained, you know, one regression, absolutely fine. And it's probably come from because I've progressed the rest of the movements in the workout. You know, with that comes a higher amount of volume because I've done more reps or lifted more weight. So at this point in the workout, a bit more fatigue potentially, see what I mean? All right, final one of the day. Single arm D-handle cable car. Once again, using the pad to brace my upper arm into. Now, you could make the argument to say an arm movement, an optimal arm movement, includes one that provides some sort of an anchor for your upper arm. At the end of the day, when it comes to controlling your biceps and triceps, it's elbow flexion extension, you know. We probably want to try and keep our shoulder position consistent throughout, you know. So it makes sense to brace the upper arm because then we're eliminating having to stabilize the shoulder joint. And that's why like a preacher curl is so good. But that doesn't mean to say you need to brace your upper arm on all of the movements you do. So just something to consider when picking movements. Maybe try and do some with your upper arm braced against something. Oh yeah. Fuck. Pain. All right, pull all wrapped up.
These are the new posing trunks. I mean, if you saw my other ones, they look very similar. There's probably a bit of a better cut, a little bit thinner here, which is great. And this is how the Physique's looking.
So that is the pull session, all done and dusted. Very good session today. I'm feeling a lot better than I was yesterday, that's for sure. Legs yesterday, I woke up just feeling draggy, probably the most draggy day I've had of the entire prep. And that resulted in the hardest session of prep as well. So I was sensible in that session, you know. You've got to listen to your body in times like that. And, you know, the movements I was doing in that session, like SLDLs, I knew I wasn't going to be able to retain those numbers. And to be honest with you, my form was getting a bit sloppy with them as well. So I'd rather drop the load a little bit, be sensible, and provide a good stimulus to the muscle like I've been going on about in today's session. And ultimately, that is the goal at this stage. So no need to take those scrappy reps. Keep it nice and sensible in general, and provide an adequate stimulus to the muscle. So today's session, however, bounced back, feeling fantastic. Either progressed, maintained. I did take a couple of weight reductions just because, again, I felt like my form was getting a little bit sloppy. Shooting for those lower reps, like on the single arm pull down, for instance. I dropped the load a little bit on that because I got 6 last week, and 6 on a movement like that just isn't going to be as beneficial for me anyway. So yeah, overall very good session, happy with it. Shots after, looking the best I ever have, leanest I've ever been, but also feeling really good for this stage in prep. So got my check-in with Kieran tomorrow. Looking forward to seeing if any changes are going in. And yeah, hope you've enjoyed the video. If there's anything you'd like me to post more about, food, nutrition, training, anything else, drop a comment down below. 5 weeks out, time to work now. Stay tuned for the next one. If you've got this far, fair play, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.